All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much to all of the residents who came out here, and of course, our local press for educating your readers and viewers. And just a quick note, we have a series of speakers who are all going to be saying just a couple minutes worth of remarks, and then we will do Q&A at the end. And just so that everyone knows, as you can hear, there's a lot of jet noise. We will be pausing to allow the jets to fly over at that loudest part, and then we'll resume speaking when the jet noise quiets down a bit. So everyone you see gathered here is a Tempe resident urging our neighbors to vote no in the special election that starts next month. The proposed Tempe Entertainment District, as it's being called, includes a hockey arena and what's being described as luxury retail and residences. This damages our communities, misuses our tax dollars, and hands over control to a notoriously unreliable billionaire who does not share our values or care about our residents. Case in point, last week, Tempe1st, an all-volunteer group of Tempe residents, was notified we are being sued by the billionaire Alex Meruelo and his company, Bluebird Development, and the Yes campaign that he is funding for daring to use our freedom of speech against his proposal. We were told to immediately cease and desist from speaking to neighbors or using our own social media to engage in civic dialogue in public settings or in private communication. This is what we were ordered by the billionaire pushing this proposal. Our attorneys reviewed their demands and quickly evaluated them to be completely baseless and nothing more than a desperate and undemocratic attempt to intimidate voters and silence residents who oppose his plans for our city and our tax dollars. They are attempting to crush, under the fear of financial ruin, seniors on fixed incomes like Ron and Bernita Pies, educators making less than $40,000 a year like Maria Lopez, small business owners like Libby Goff, and unpaid volunteers, residents like Mario, Janet, Anthony, Judy, and Hector, who have given decades of their lives to living and making Tempe a community worth protecting. While their lawsuit attacks Tempe1st, the Vote No coalition is broad and diverse. So today you will hear from small business owners, directly impacted residents, affordable housing advocates, environmental scientists, economists, ASU students, and others. Our main thesis is this: we will not be harassed into silence by a Las Vegas billionaire looking to profit from exploiting us. We will continue educating our neighbors about why this development is wrong for our city and why the predatory billionaire behind it, Bluebird Development and Coyotes owner, Alex Meruelo, is a bad neighbor that we will not have taking control of our city. I would like to now introduce May of Tempe-based Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders for Equity.
Can you introduce yourself, please? Can you introduce?
I'm Dawn Penich Thacker. I am a member of Tempe1st and a Tempe resident. May?
Hello. Thank you everyone for being here. My name is May Tiwamangkala. That's MAYTIWAMANGKALA, and I'm the Democracy Defender Director at ANHPI for Equity. ANHPI for Equity is a statewide organization striving for equity and justice by building power through community-directed organizing, increasing civic engagement, and empowering young leaders. We work closely with AAPI students, especially at ASU, and that is why we were compelled to advocate against the Coyotes development. Knowing how gentrification harms communities, we are extremely concerned about the well-being of students since housing prices and living costs will soar. The entertainment district doesn't consider the budgets of ASU students, considering they're proposing an increased sales tax and want to attract higher income families with their high-end retail and fine dining restaurants. These kinds of establishments only care about profit, not people. Otherwise, they would make their products more accessible for everyday people. Fighting against corporate greed isn't new for AAPI communities, and we work with AAPI organizations nationally who are also fighting against sports stadiums and arenas to protect their Chinatowns and cultural districts. For example, Philadelphia's AAPI community is fighting against the 76ers stadium from being built to save their Chinatown. We know the playbook. Over time, as traffic and drunk sports fans drive out current residents and small businesses, those same developers behind the arena will buy up storefronts and gentrify the neighborhood. In 2022, there was a study on 472 urban stadiums across 169 metropolitan regions, and it showed that areas across stadiums exhibit clear indicators of gentrification and have higher rates of displacement among racial and ethnic minorities. We are experts on this issue because it happened right here in Arizona. The historic Phoenix Chinatown was driven out where the Phoenix Suns Arena is now. In 2017, Phoenix's Chinese Cultural Center was demolished and turned into a corporate headquarters. The Latinx community also experienced displacement right here in Tempe. San Pablo El Barrio was wiped out for an expansion of ASU. We cannot let these developers grab more land while the city ignores the demands from the community, like having more affordable housing, funding for public schools, support for small businesses, more elder and child care, and more equitable solutions that uplift ethnic communities. Our voices will become obsolete as we compete against the dollars that corporations use to lobby our elected officials. This isn't just about sports. It's about getting power back to the people so we can work together to revitalize the community. We don't need a billionaire savior to put Tempe on the map.
Yeah.
The people and small businesses of Tempe make Tempe unique and valuable. Tempe residents voted against a sports stadium before, and we can do it again. Let's vote no on Props 301, 302, and 303. Yes! And don't get pucked out of Tempe. Thank you.
Thank you, May. Next, we will hear from Gail Shanks, the founder and owner of Changing Hands Bookstore located in Tempe and Phoenix, and she is also a Tempe resident.
Good morning. All jobs are not the same, and imaginary numbers plastered on signs do not guarantee health in a community like Tempe. What benefits our city are good paying jobs with paid time off, better than minimum wage, and also, curiously, people willing to fill those jobs. As a local business owner for 50 years who has fought for the well-being of my staff and who currently employs 70 people, I will tell you that all jobs are not equal. Employers in the Valley are having a terrible time finding enough workers to fill the jobs that currently exist here. The developers claiming that they will bring 6,900 jobs is a laugh, and it means nothing. Do they mean jobs selling peanuts during a hockey game? Part-time? No benefits? Are the jobs cleaning hotel rooms or serving in restaurants? Ask local and restaurant owners who can't find people to work in their establishments. How few people are looking for jobs in Tempe, where unemployment is the lowest it's been in decades, and affordable housing doesn't exist for those employees who might want to work here. Does that 6,900 jobs number mean anything? I would say no. Even their own projections have varied widely. Why? Why different numbers on different days? Because they're imaginary. How can we believe anything the developer says? We read, we think, we know the truth about the city we live in, and are here today to remind residents that as small business people, we are here for the long haul. We are here to bring good jobs and benefits to our community. We are here to ensure that our city council and residents are looking at the bigger issues like traffic, gambling, flight paths, labor issues, allocation of funding to support the whole city, not just a few wealthy developers. Those are concerns that as a businesswoman and a Tempe resident I have, and I am willing to fight for, because looking at the airplane overhead does not make me so happy. Looking at the big picture enables me to continue in business and pay my workers a living wage. Thank you all for coming today.
Thank you, Gail. Next, we will hear from Philip Yates, a fifth-generation Tempe resident, the owner of this home that he has generously opened up to us, and the president of the Riverside Homeowners Association. Phil?
Thank you, and welcome to my humble abode. Thank you for coming this morning. Even under all these planes that are flying above us. Actions speak louder than words. Alex Meruelo's actions in Glendale, Tucson, the state of Nevada, and California speak for themselves. He's left behind bills, taxes, and stuffed vendors, working class people, people with families, people doing hard jobs and trying to get by. Now, Alex is suing hardworking people here in Tempe just for trying to educate voters and protect our neighborhoods. Voters should learn from his notorious history and the way he's already threatening people here in the city of Tempe.
Right.
As a fifth-generation Tempean, if Tempe voters were to approve this deal, it would be the worst decision of my lifetime. Look at where we live. We have seen a lot of change and development, and that's normal. But it doesn't have to destroy people's lives. Already, the Riverside neighborhood and the adjacent Sunset neighborhood have experienced terrible traffic conditions as drivers cut through our streets to avoid traffic on Mill and on Priest and Rio Salado. It's dangerous. There are little kids playing here in the streets sometimes because this is a family community, not a Las Vegas strip. The traffic congestion of 16,000 people leaving the proposed stadium district every time there's a game or an event. You can't mitigate your neighbors our neighborhoods are amongst the most affordable in the downtown area, but that's already being threatened. Imagine the impact of 2,000 luxury residents. Where do regular working families go? If you ask Alex Meruelo and his people backing his proposal, we can all just go to hell or leave town if we don't like it. For the past decade, prospective developers have reached out to me, the president of the Riverside Neighborhood Association, to introduce their projects and suggest ways of collaboration. We always appreciated that and have been open-minded. It is very telling that the Coyotes never approached our neighborhood or me at any stage of this proposal and tried to work with us or address our concerns. They've already shown us they don't care what happens to anyone as long as they get what they want. We are one of the most impacted neighborhoods. We want to speak loudly and have our voices be heard to our fellow residents. We must get out and vote in this special election, which starts in exactly 1 month. It is our decision, not the Coyotes with their $1 million PR machine. Why should we give over $700 million in subsidies to someone with such a terrible history in other cities and beyond is beyond my understanding. It makes no sense. So heads up, I urge my fellow Tempe voters, please watch your mailboxes as your ballots will arrive just after April 19th. Please tell all of your Tempe neighbors to vote no on all propositions 301, 302, and 303. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, next, the issues continue. We will hear from ASU Senior Global Futures Scientist, former Arizona Municipal Water Users Authority Board member, and two-term Tempe Council member, Lauren Kuby.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm here to sound the alarm about the negative environmental impacts of the taxpayer-funded Stadium District. Now, Tempe residents know full well that Arizona and the desert Southwest is in the midst of a historic drought, the worst, in fact, in 1,200 years. So ice hockey in the desert may be a jarring thought, considering we're in a Tier 2 shortage, needing to cut our water consumption as a state by a whopping 21%. During the city's rare public discussions of the project, no analysis was provided on the anticipated water use demands. Crazy, huh? However, a community member, thank you, Victor, made a Freedom of Information Act request, and he received the city's water flow projections of the proposed hockey district, and they are alarming. According to the city of Tempe, the city as a whole uses 50 million gallons of water a day. The city estimates that the Coyotes project alone will use 1 million gallons of water a day, and that doesn't even include the outdoor ice skating rink where the team will practice. Oh. An outdoor ice skating rink in the desert? Crazy. Could they send a clearer message that they just don't care? This ill-advised development will increase our water use in a time when we've been reducing our consumption, and the city has been preparing all of us, families, businesses, government operations, for deeper cuts to come. Unbelievably, Bluebird has even told council members and council members in the Arizona Republic that they plan to request federal dollars to manipulate the Salt River, to move the dam, and gain waterfront access, without regard for riparian areas, airport impacts, or the state's drought crisis. I've explained how Bluebird is ignoring the water conversation that has to happen, but they're also misinforming voters about needed soil prep and remediation at the 46-acre site, labeling it a toxic landfill. The land was once a sand and gravel operation containing loose fill. It is highly unlikely to contain toxic materials. Fact is, the site actually houses critical public works, solid waste, and engineering facilities with over 150 employees, as well as a highly valued compost operation that the city will lose entirely if this project goes forward. In actuality, I'm going to wait, because this is really important. In actuality, the only toxic element here is the Bluebird Group's repeated trashing of the truth. In order to sell a bill of goods to Tempe taxpayers, but the city, we need a trustworthy partner who will collaborate and invite community input, not make stuff up and attack concerned residents. If we're to build a sustainable and equitable Tempe, we need to first reject this risky proposal and bad partner and go back to the drawing board. And this time, let's engage our residents. Let's engage our commissions. Look at all of us here today. We represent so many people. And we want to represent the entire community in this process and issue a more inclusive bidding process, not one that's earmarked just for the Coyotes to respond, but to create a project that we as Tempeans deserve. Instead of this risky and irresponsible proposal, we must find the highest and best use for this last remaining chunk of city-owned land in a landlocked city, and we need to develop it in a way that embraces a sustainable and equitable water and energy practice and respects our residents' values and needs. Please vote no for all of our sakes. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Lauren, for talking about the elephant in the room, the water issues here. Now we'll hear from another Tempe resident, Charles Seiler, who is also an economist and government funding consultant.
Thank you so much, Dawn. All right, so the corrupt billionaire, Alex Meruelo, who owns Bluebird Development, and his campaign that he's funding claims that this entertainment district is privately funded. But as is his MO, these are lies and misinformation. Here's how the development and disposition agreement with the city, Prop 303, puts over $700 million in taxpayer funds into the pocket of a corrupt billionaire. He gets to pocket $500 million worth of property taxes through both an 8-year and a 30-year GIPLET. The GIPLET is a property tax shell game that even the Goldwater Institute, who's very pro-business, describes as crony corporate welfare that shifts the tax burden onto existing residents and businesses. Prop 303 creates 2 new taxes that go entirely to Alex Meruelo. A new property tax Meruelo gets to assess via a community facilities district, and an additional 6% sales tax over and above our existing sales tax called the developer imposed surcharge. No way. No. If passed, Tempe will divert the overwhelming majority of our sales tax revenue to Meruelo's debt account to pay for his development, in an arrangement that will see Meruelo pocket more than 88% of Tempe's sales taxes on the site, while Tempe taxpayers keep just 11.5% of our own sales taxes. Tempe will shell out a massive chunk of hotel tax revenue to Meruelo, paying more than 80% of our tax revenue for hotel stays, leaving Tempe taxpayers with just 16.8% of our hotel stay tax revenue. And then, after 8 years, when some of this property finally makes its way back onto Tempe's tax rolls, Alex Meruelo gets a cut of that too. He'll keep 22.5% of the property taxes for the remaining 30 years. If passed, Tempe taxpayers also have to pay off another billionaire, to the tune of $10 million to resolve a right of first refusal on a portion of the site. And then taxpayers will have to cop up tens of millions of dollars to relocate and outsource multiple city services currently performed on the site, which, as you heard, is not a landfill at all. The truth is, this deal cost Tempe taxpayers tens of millions of dollars up front and then gives $700 million plus in tax dollars over the next 3 decades to a billionaire developer. Instead of generating significant economic development, this deal siphons Tempe tax funds at rates so high, one economist who specializes in stadium finance said it would be better to boost the economy by just dropping cash out of a helicopter than to subsidize another sports arena. At least that would be quieter than jet noise. So one thing we know is that Alex Meruelo has lied about the financial deals of everywhere he's been, whether it's Glendale, missing payments in Tucson, or deals with vendors across the country. So why would we expect him to be honest about his finances now? Thank you.
Yep, the devil's in the details for sure. Next, we will hear from Andrea Soto, a sophomore justice studies major and the president of the Arizona Students Association at ASU.
Thank you so much. Yes? Hello everyone, I'm Andrea Soto, I go to ASU. As student leaders today and future community leaders in Tempe and across the world, we take our commitment to integrity, justice, inclusion, and responsibility to the community very seriously. From what we have learned, the same is not true of the owner of the Coyotes and Bluebird development. Mr. Meruelo has a long history of not paying taxes, skipping out on rent, and breaking promises. Just ask Glendale and Tucson. He is notorious for paying workers less than they were promised. He has a history of manipulating people to take less than what they're owed. He donates massive amounts of money to anti-LGBT and racist politicians all over the country, including here in Arizona, to gain political favors. He's been accused by dozens of employees of creating a toxic workplace environment, especially for women and people of color. Students will not tolerate a culture of racism and sexism, and we see this project for what it is, a way to ignore community needs and issues such as homelessness and affordable housing. All of this information is readily available online, in news reports, and in legal documents from California, Nevada, Arizona, and elsewhere. This is not the history of someone who will collaborate to make our communities more equitable, more diverse, and more just. This isn't someone who aligns with our values as student leaders, and it's not someone we want to deal with as we complete our degrees, grow our careers, and embark on improving life for all people in Tempe and beyond. What we care most about is exactly what this developer and his proposed entertainment district lack or even hurt. We care about the environment, our water crisis, air pollution, respecting the land, and fighting global warming. We care about all people having a safe and affordable place to live, not luxury condos. We are not impressed by more part-time, low-wage jobs that don't offer health care, and that's if Meruelo even pays up. We have values and needs in our community that this developer and this proposal don't even begin to address. And we're not naive. Showing up to clean a park, putting a rainbow on a poster, or donating to a charity for a campaign picture doesn't fool us and doesn't undo the decades of actions that prove he's not someone we can trust or want to influence our lives. We deserve much better than this, and we'll do everything in our power to fight for our values of justice, equity, inclusion, and sustainability. against this damaging proposal. We hope you'll join us in voting no and demanding much better for our future. Thank you.
Vote no. Thank you so much. Okay, and finally, our last speaker on behalf of the community, the actual residents of Tempe, the people. We will hear from affordable housing champion, Veronica Monje, co-chair of the Arizona Poor People's Campaign and the president of LULAC Council 1191. Veronica.
Hi, good afternoon. In 1968, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and many others called for a revolution of values in America. They sought to build a broad fusion movement that could unite poor and impacted communities across the country. Their name was a direct cry from the underside of history, the Poor People's Campaign. Today, the Poor People's Campaign has picked up this unfinished work. People have come together to confront the interlocking evils of systemic racism, poverty, ecological devastation, militarism, and the war economy. We are a movement actively working to impact policies and elections at every level of government. Our goal is to build a lasting power for poor and impacted people in the U.S. For the past few years post-pandemic, the Arizona Poor People's Campaign has witnessed firsthand the increased number of homelessness due to the increased prices in real estate, rent, gas, and food. Not too long ago, we were out here in Tempe advocating for people living in the Rio Salado riverbed. People were in immediate need of food, water, and shelter. We are tired of seeing developers time and time again take advantage during these perilous times to profit from the suffering of others by using tax dollars for their own interest. Tempe tax dollars should be allocated towards affordable housing, sustainable programs for dislocated residents, funding towards legal assistance for residents facing evictions, education, and other programs for low-income families. Shame on Bluebird Development and Alex Meruelo, who are more interested in their greed rather than human beings. We encourage you to vote no for Prop 301, 302, and 303 for the sake of prioritizing the real needs of Tempe residents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Does this look like a group of people who are going to be scared by a billionaire's lawsuit to try to shut us up? Okay, now we're going to open up any of the speakers and residents here for questions. Oh, I think some billionaire.
You are concerned billionaires. Look at these geezer professors and these hippie kids with their hockey sack and emo music. I mean, do you really think that you look to them to see what's fun? Yeah, they think they're so smart. If they're so smart, how come they're not CEOs like us? Exactly. I mean, there is nothing to do in Tempe. Nothing. And you should be thanking us. This is just, we're turning it into a beautiful place to have a good time, an entertainment district. I mean, look at this guy. He's having a good time. He can't believe he's getting a handout for the land. We are turning this into an entertainment district so that it's not an East German style hellhole. I mean, we're turning it into a land grab.
Yeah, and hey, Coyotes, they did so much for Glendale, right? So they want to come over here. They just want to generously spread the wealth into the underprivileged, blighted side of town that you are, Tempe.
Tempe, yeah. You're welcome, plebeians.
We're going to change the name for you, by the way.
And by the way, we're a misunderstood minority. This just gets me ready. We're here standing up for a fellow billionaire. Many of us did nothing to deserve this. In fact, a lot of us were born this way.
So how dare you not appreciate us?
All right, well, you know what? Okay, well, there you go. So unlike Alex Meruelo and Bluebird Development, we respect the freedom of speech. So thank you, billionaires, for having your say. But seriously, any questions that any of our coalition can address?
Can you speak to the gambling aspect of the project?
Yes, built into the DDA, the agreement that voters are being asked to approve, it specifically Prop 303, this would authorize Alex Meruelo, who is the owner of multiple casinos and sports betting operations, to put 2 physical betting sites in the district. That is literally steps from ASU's Tempe campus. And they have been very forthcoming that that is, in fact, their goal and a priority to increase on-site and online gambling inside the city. Okay.
So are they targeting the kids at ASU?
Yes, this is a direct attempt to target and market gambling to students at ASU. And I don't know, some of you might remember back when credit card companies used to roam ASU campus and push credit card applications on every student walking by, and that was outlawed because it destroyed the financial future for thousands of students. And yet Prop 303 would put on-site and online gambling essentially on campus, specifically targeting students to exploit them and ruin their financial futures. Not good. Okay, thank you so much. We are all sticking around if anyone has any questions. One thing I want to make sure and remind our fellow Tempe residents is that ballots will start arriving in your mailbox April 19th and thereafter. Please mail back those ballots by May 9th. May 9th is the mail by date to ensure they get back to the election center on time. After May 9th, anyone can drop off their mail ballot to an authorized voting center. All of those locations are available at beballotready.org or Tempe1st.com, and that's Tempe1st.com. That we are just one of the groups in coalition, actual Tempe residents who are opposed to this proposal, and we know that we deserve much better for our community, for our tax dollars, and for our future. Thank you so much for being here.